All right, good morning. Welcome everybody to episode 75 of the Coffee Squad podcast. Today we are going to be talking about women in safety and security industry with Mariah, and Jake, as usual, is joining us. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm glad you said women and then you said good morning, guys.
Hey, I'm all inclusive, you know.
I'm already offended.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna assume any genders here.
we need to train you a little bit better.
Yeah.
I told you, Mariah, already, man, we're going off the rails like we always do. So,
all right. So we just wanted to kind of discuss some things. You know, women in security are really underrepresented. There's something like 50%, roughly 50%. You know, it depends on the year and the statistics. Roughly 60% of all world's population are women, but only 14% compared to, we're in the cybersecurity field a couple years ago. U.S. Department of Labor reported that like 7.5% security and safety, 18% of information security analysts, and 23% of people working in the security guard sector were women. And overall, the percentage of women employed in investigations in the security service sector is about 24%. So it's pretty underrepresented, and there's not a lot of women in this industry. It's grown a lot just in the last couple of years that I've been involved. I've seen a lot of growth in it, but so we just kind of want to discuss that today, and who better than to have a woman in the security industry.
Yeah. I think ASIS wrote a good article in 2019 talking about it. I think they spoke to a former Secret Service agent, and she, I think she said in state and local law enforcement back in 2019 was 13% of women are in local and U.S. law enforcement. So in the military, the same thing. In the SOF industry, very few women, but I can tell you how valuable women are on target. The information, the intelligence they can collect, speaking to, especially in the Middle East culture where men and women don't mingle, especially outside of the home. So we definitely saw great gains with having women attached with us. So like you said, Mariah, thank you. Thanks for joining us. And I expect a fun, lively conversation today with everything going on since last week. So
yeah. So before we dive into that, let's give a little information on Mariah. She is an experienced, success-driven business development specialist for LVC companies. That's out of Minnesota, right?
Yeah, we're headquartered there, but I'm in Arizona at one of our branch offices.
So, her goal includes growing LVC's market share in the aerospace and defense industries. She's particularly passionate about helping customers leverage the latest security technology to better protect their lives and assets. She includes serving on the member engagement chair for the American Society for Industry Security, which is ASIS or ACES. I mean, they don't like that anymore, but I always say it because I'm hard-headed. The Phoenix chapter, obviously, and she's involved with the Arizona Tech Council. So she comes from a military family, Navy and Air Force. We won't hold that against you. My dad's former Air Force, so I guess I'm from an Air Force family. Deep gratitude for those who protect her. She's kind of a tough cookie, or we would call her a badass. She's into MMA, jiu-jitsu, shooting. I guess it looks like she likes American-made pistols, Smith & Wesson, training horses, and so like a total all-around tough cookie is what it says. So did I miss anything?
No, that pretty much sums me up. I like fashion and glamour, but at the same time, I'll pretty much get on any horse and shoot any gun. So both sides of the spectrum.
There you go.
That's awesome. I've been working with a nonprofit out here in North Carolina that takes wild Mustang horses and uses them for law enforcement or first responders and veterans, and working through some of their issues. So I think that's pretty awesome. So
interesting. Yeah, I had one Mustang in training with me, and she was nasty, man. I mean, it takes a lot to get me off of your back, and that horse had me off 3 times in one ride.
Wow.
And then right after that, the owner was like, I don't want her. I want to sell her. I'm like, I can work with her. She's like, nope. I was like, all right.
Yeah. This guy, I mean, he was in the Navy. He taught for the Navy. Justin's his name, Justin Dunn. And he goes out and rescues wild Mustangs, trains them, and he doesn't use a bite. So it's all just trust. The horse getting to know you, you getting to know the horse. And I've watched like vets and first responders go through this out here in It's really, really cool. And we used to have horses in Afghanistan at 2 of the fire bases I was at, and I used to hate them.
Wow.
But they are filling off my energy of probably my
Mhm.
hate for them, and so they just
yeah.
didn't want to perform. Plus, they're underfed, and we have so much. We load them up with so much gear, and then we weigh another 100 pounds with our kid on. So, but yeah, super interesting. I think that's really cool with that. So, well, what are you drinking, man?
So I am drinking was it called 5 Alarm by Black Rifle Coffee Company. You know, most of their brews have some sort of homage to either first responders or military, and this one's in honor of like the firefighters. They actually did a redesign because of the wildfires this year, so it's really cool package now with the on one side's the like a regular NYPD type guy or NYFD type firefighter in their kit, and then the other side's a wildfire kitted out guy. So it's pretty cool packaging. So it's good. It's nice, smoky medium roast blend with hints of molasses and chocolate. I know you're waiting for it.
I can't
You're
say
bougie.
I'm not bougie.
That's a lot nicer word than what I want to say.
I just enjoy a good cup of coffee.
Yeah.
What are you drinking, Mariah? I think I saw a green straw, so I'm pretty sure I know what that is.
Yeah, pretty basic, but just a latte. I don't want to add any crap to it. Just coffee and whole milk.
Well, that's everybody thinks I add stuff to it. I don't. It's black coffee. It just has the flavor notes from the beans, depending on where they're grown, the elevation, and the soil, and all that stuff comes different flavor profiles. It's like beer. It's like beer and hops and stuff like that. So
I lived in Costa Rica, so I understand that
Okay.
people are really into it there.
Yeah, I bet they've got some good beans down there. Jake, what kind of foo-foo water are you drinking?
I'm just drinking my regular water, man.
Just regular?
I got some like BCA.
Holy cow, you don't have a green cup?
Oh man, this is like
I can't believe it. It's a miracle.
Yeah, so rocking just some regular water with some BCAs. So I think I like
from Blackfish.
Yeah, some Blackfish Rebound BCA drink, and then a Pellegrino. I don't know, pomegranate blackcurrant. So it has a hint of pomegranate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a nice subtle flavor of blackcurrant with a nice little pop at the end from the sparkling water. Did I do you justice, Will?
It tickles your nose, I know.
Did I do it?
Yes.
And I drink it with my pinky up every time.
There you go.
Is this what happens when you get out of the military? All these crap meals that you've had over the years, and now you need fancy waters.
Yeah.
Notes.
Yep. Well, you can't enjoy what you like, so get what you want.
I was pretty spoiled. I mean, we did eat a lot of MREs during certain deployments, just because of routes and everything. But yeah, if I don't like something, I don't eat it anymore. And so my poor wife, I'm like, I'm not eating that tonight. We're just gonna go grab something.
Oh, if I cooked for you and you said that.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of the cooking. So just yeah, if it doesn't sound good before she cooks it, I'm like, let's not do that.
Let's do something different.
Yeah. So my food bill is atrocious. So, but yes, I don't know. So the water thing, I used to drink a lot of soda, and I've tried to cut that out. So when I want something sparkling, and really for the podcast, since I don't drink coffee, I do sparkling waters just so Will can give me a hard time.
Well, once we're at the age where our metabolism doesn't work as good as it used to. So I've cut out the soda too, or pop. You call it pop over there, right?
I'm in Arizona. No, it's soda.
It's soda. Okay.
I think the Midwest calls it pop, right?
I'm from Montana, and we call it everything Coke or pop. So
yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
down here, it's all soda.
Mariah, how'd you get in the business?
Yeah,
let's kind of talk about you and like women and kind of, and then as you talk about your experience, if you could kind of talk about like, other women.
Yeah.
Maybe high school, college, or, looking for a second career, like what tips and tricks you have for them?
Yeah. So for me, I kind of tripped and fell into it. I never grew up thinking that this is where I was going to be or what I wanted to do. Right before this, I was with another integrator. And then before that, I was working on the project management team for a company that engineered rugged computing systems. So our clients were like Boeing, Lockheed, the military itself, all branches of the military. So it was amazing. And I loved being a part of it because, from a removed sense, if I'm making something that makes your ships work better or your planes work better or whatever, your tanks, then, we're helping. And I liked being a part of that. So that was back in San Diego. I moved out here, ended up with another integrator that was really just low voltage. So we did security technology, but I don't really think they saw themselves as a security company. And then I came to LBC kind of expecting the same thing. And we're really moving in that direction of being seen as a security company, and security technology is what we do. And it's really cool. That's when I've been getting to be a part of ASIS, meeting all these other people that are really in the security industry specifically. And then to tie it all together, that's why since I've gotten here, I've been really passionate about trying to get clients like Boeing, like Lockheed, those guys. And even though we're just helping keeping their manufacturing areas, under surveillance, it's still tying in what I'm really passionate about.
That's awesome. So are you going to GSX?
I'm not. So
Okay.
my territory really is Arizona.
Yeah.
We have a national team as well that goes to a lot of the national shows, but maybe my boss will hear this and then send me.
I mean, I think it's a great networking tool.
Yeah, it's very good.
And then all the education that you get along with it and hearing other like-minded people. So last year, because of COVID, they did it virtually, which was okay. I think they did. I say it was okay, but I think they did a phenomenal job with switching it to a virtual thing for a trade show. This year, I think the email just came out yesterday to all the chapter leadership that it is happening. So you can do a hybrid, so you can do online or you can show up to Orlando. So I think that's our plug for ASIS this show. But a great organization. I absolutely love them. So I think for anyone in the security industry should be a member. And their website and their resources are phenomenal.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. And I will say on that note, because you asked about other women as well, here in Arizona, it's pretty strong. Like our chapter president, she's female. Our treasurer is female. We have me and another girl, we co-chair member engagement. We have another female who's doing like new member, and she works on the international side for them as well. So we have a lot of really strong women down here in Phoenix in the industry, and it's a lot of personalities, but it's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
We just we just started our chapter up again last year. So we're slowly but surely getting there. I don't think we have any females yet though. So we're working on it.
Yeah. We're better at the event planning.
Well, there's a lot of chapters in one small little area. So I think we, have to kind of compete with Raleigh and Fayetteville area too. So
gotcha.
Just a lot in that area.
So what do you like most about, I mean, you kind of mentioned it, working and helping people, being part of the security industry, and then what do you recommend for someone who purposely wants to get in that you've seen, what are some of the good things that you're like, heck yeah, I'm glad, even though you fell into it, you're glad you did. But some things that, may have made it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really lucky because my role is business development. So my job is literally to go out and meet people and do stuff like this and go to happy hours and go to golf tournaments and be involved. So I'm constantly meeting people, and with that, I'm constantly learning. So I would say if you want to be in security, but you're not on the business development or sales side, I would just say don't ignore that. There's people that are a part of the organizations that are with the end user, or they are a project manager, or whatever it is. I would just say, especially if you can find a company that backs you and supports you learning and growing in the industry, just get out there as much as possible and meet people and listen, because there are people who have been doing it a long time and they have, just simple tips and tricks. You're like, wow, I never thought about that. Or there's just so much you can learn.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I like to say is don't ever short yourself of making a new connection when it comes to networking. The bigger your network, the better chances you are to get the goal accomplished. Yeah.
I would say one that's been a learning curve for me is how to work that with competitors. Cause you meet so many people in the industry that you're like, you do what I do. How do I be friends with you? And, it's not bad vibes, but it's kind of a weird line, but sometimes they have different integrators, or sometimes they serve different verticals that you don't serve, or there's just, like you said, just don't ever write anybody off.
Joe LaSource taught us that, when Ray and I were kind of starting out in the security industry, and that was share, right? We're really good at like keeping stuff close hold. Like, no, this is mine. So what's yours is yours. But if it's not in that circle of what you do really, really well, share it. And so we've taken Joe's mantra of sharing, and it's really, really paid off for us. We don't do executive protection. So whenever I need some executive protection, I call Joe. Like, hey, Joe, this is, what we need. And here's a client, and you guys go make great things happen. There's other clients and other companies. I was just up in Philly with another company helping them out. We were just talking about women in security, big high profile event going on, and we needed female executive protection agents. Just due to some of the stars and the people that are showing up. And it's also just great to have females on the executive protection side, because most of the time people dismiss them, which is really a huge benefit on the EP side of the house, because, you kind of want to be dismissed. You want to blend in. You want to be able to sit back and watch, and no one really assumes that you're that person. You don't always want to look like the Rock. Sometimes having a Rock, someone who looks like the Rock, is a great deterrent. But sometimes you just want someone. So, it's last week we were having this discussion, and knowing that you're on the show, just kind of great little timing.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's a lot that, women can offer. You have a different angle at things. And I think it's a shame. We can get political again, but I think it's a shame for women to always try to be men. We're not the same. We are different. But with that comes advantages. So why not embrace that and use it to your advantage?
Oh, yeah.
I agree 100% with you, right? Like there is, and that was, a question that we kind of had is advantage, disadvantage. And I think there's such a huge advantage and a different perspective and mindset. And as we build out teams and as we're looking at hiring people and looking at stuff, we don't want people the same background. You don't want, 10 Green Berets and 5 Navy SEALs and a FBI and this and that. Like, you want people with a different background because they bring a different perspective.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Will and I had talked about that a little bit before the show of, what it's like to be a woman in security or why I care. And like, I know what it's like to not feel safe, I go out to a lot of the bars out here that have like country dancing, and there's been some stuff being shared recently about, women getting followed home and this and that. And no man can really truly understand what that's like to like actually have to, like, every single time I walk to my car, I look under it, I look in my back seat, like I'm constantly have to be aware, unless I'm out with like a big group of guys, then I can relax a little. Or anytime I go anywhere with my dad, that's when I'm my most relaxed. He used to be Madonna's bodyguard, so my dad's a bad mofo, but
yeah, nice.
But it's just like you constantly have to be aware. So yeah, security systems and the monitoring and stuff like that, it's not the same as having a bodyguard with you all the time, but it is adding protection. And anytime you can protect people, that hits close to home.
I can't say I understand, my wife, if she ever goes out at night, I tell her, hey, she has her concealed carry. I'm like, look, whenever you get out of that car, your hand is in your purse on the pistol.
Yeah.
And we live in a very, very safe neighborhood. You just never know, but yeah, I don't have to really worry about that, so you're right. But so I think that makes you better, more in tune.
Yeah.
Right? I think we used to do surveillance courses, and you usually found women were much more in tune with their surroundings, and were picking up the small details. They could tell you what I was wearing or what kind of brand of sunglasses or something, because they would pick up on those fine details much more than the men would. So, yeah. Women, mother-daughter surveillance teams got me a few times. Just blew right by and didn't even realize, what they were doing. So
that goes back to what you're saying. They kind of get overlooked, and you don't, and I think that's kind of, I don't want to say it's from years of having that thought that they don't do that job, or they can't do that job, because they can, and they obviously are doing it well. So I think I know in law enforcement, one of my first partners is a female, and within their first shift. I was like, I'm hanging with her because she's a badass. So when you got, I know you said you kind of fell into the security industry, but did you have any expectations coming in? And what are you kind of like, what were you surprised maybe, or maybe you weren't surprised when you found out when you came in?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm on the security technology side, like I've said, and I think that's really what has surprised me and what has been exciting for me. So, with security technology now, there's so much more that cameras do other than just record. When you're somewhere and you see a surveillance camera, you think like, oh, if something happens, they'll have footage. But now, especially with all the cloud solutions, there's so much more software that goes behind them, that can help businesses grow as well. And my dad owns businesses, so he's an entrepreneur, and I grew up with a very entrepreneurial mindset. So it's exciting for me too to be able to help businesses. And I just never even realized that there were things like heat mapping where you could see in a grocery store, oh, there's all these people surrounding this end cap. Okay, we should probably always have barbecue lays here. They're selling like crazy, or whatever it is. Now we aren't just selling to the director of security or the director of IT. Now we're really talking to some of those decision makers on the sales side, in a more of a retail or building management setting of like, look at all of the other uses. So that's been kind of a learning curve for me that has been exciting.
So can you talk about that more, like kind of what you do for LVC and I guess like the challenges that you've seen in your job as a woman, and then maybe some of the benefits of being a woman in your job?
Yeah, well, I'll start backwards because that was a lot. But I would say, like, as far as a benefit of being a woman, as I said earlier, I say use it. Like, embrace the fact that you're a woman. There's a lot of men. We kind of play in both industries. So we're in the security industry, we play to the end user, and then we're also in the building industry. So GCs, construction, that whole world, which again, tons of men. And I don't want to be them. I am softer. I am more enjoyable to go grab a cup of coffee with. I'll go out and I'll golf, but it's a different, like, I can sit and listen to your problems and understand in a different way, as we were saying. And I don't want to lose that. Like, I like being softer. I like having that, more emotional and supportive side. And yeah, so I would say that as far as being a woman, that I would encourage everyone to embrace. But then also, be tough, be a badass. Don't let yourself get walked all over, because that will happen too. And it's really easy to get written off of like, oh, she's blonde, she's young, she's this, she's that, she doesn't know. Okay, well, I do know. I have a lot of experience. I've been around a lot of incredible people and have an amazing team behind me. So hold on, listen to what needs to be said. So you got to, play both sides of it a little bit. As far as where we are, we do play to both industries. LVC is trying to grow more as a technology company. So security cameras, access control, intrusion alarm. We're getting more into monitoring as well. And we do service. Okay. So that's what we have to offer. And then here in Arizona, we do fire alarm as well. So we're a little bit on the life safety side, but that's not as relevant.
Oh, it is. I mean, I think safety and security kind of really go hand in hand a lot. I know when I do a lot of security assessments, I have one of my major clients, I work a lot with their environmental health and safety director, because a lot of the safety policies affect security, and security affects the safety policies as well. So every security assessment I have ever done on any building, I'm always looking at fire suppression systems, fire alarms. Are they working? When was the last time they were checked? How many fire extinguishers are there? Are they out of date? So, who's securing the lines? All that stuff. So I think safety and security mold up very, very well. So.
When you have those clients or you work with those directors, are they the ones that talk to you very often about active shooter protection or anything along those lines?
So we've gotten, I'd say since COVID hit, the active shooter stuff has really dropped off. For a lot of our clients. We've gotten a lot of talks. And so what we always propose is run a real active shooter training scenario. So get your local first responders involved. And a lot of your first responders, your SWAT teams, and the police departments and sheriff's departments and the FBI, if you live in a major city, they want to get involved, especially if you're a high target or a large building, because now they know the layout of your building.
Yeah.
Blueprints
They
is one
know.
thing, but when you get inside the building, they get actually ground on the ground and can actually because blueprints don't show furniture, blueprints don't show people, right? So it's always
Yeah.
good to get in the building to do it. I know when I was on the SWAT team, we'd always do a lot of we did every school in our district, active shooter type training and all that stuff during the summertime, just so we could see the layout of all the schools. Because, like I said, everything's not on a blueprint, so it's very good to get them in there when possible.
And we let the employees. We work with the C suites and say, look, let your employees do it towards the end of the workday, and let it be volunteer, right? Because there's some people could be traumas, flashbangs going on, and people screaming, yelling, and it's a real life scenario that we try to run for them. But it's back to we do them. It's just not as much with COVID right now, as people aren't going to they're going back now, but not as much as they were with the workspace. So
interesting. Yeah. And I mean, I've only been in this industry for like a year now, so it's newer for me. And that's something that I'm surprised I don't get asked about more, but that would make sense if, I've been in it since COVID basically. So that's dropped off a lot. And I know we've talked about it with cameras, like being able to have that ability to have some of those detections, those early detections.
Yep.
But yeah, I get surprised that I don't get asked more.
Yeah.
Metal detectors too at doorways. Like everyone has to come through.
Yeah.
And there's these, I shouldn't say they're newer metal detectors that can literally pick up if someone's concealing a weapon, even if it's a plastic weapon. It's this weird X-ray. I should call it a metal detector because it's really not a metal detector. But those are starting to come out more and more. But again, new technology always means it's more money. Look at cameras, right? Cameras, what used to cost 10 years ago. I mean, they do so, like you were saying, so much more now because of the cyber industry and the technology that are being placed in them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little different now too, and it's easier for us when our client is like director of IT versus director of security, because you have to understand that with the changing and moving towards cloud solutions, your camera is able to be constantly updated. So if a new software comes out, now you all of a sudden have the newest camera, not in the sense of the lens, but in sense of the technology and the software behind it. So those yearly licenses that you're paying, they actually make sense.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of cameras, I get this question all the time, and I love cameras, and I think they're wonderful. I just think most people inside and outside the security industry really misuse them, or don't use them to their fullest capability. Yeah. And so I think you and the cells have love to hear your thoughts on that and what you see.
Yeah, I mean, what's crazy to me is there's a lot of people that think they can put them up themselves, or they hire the cheapest possible labor to do it. And that's not me plugging LVC of like, oh, pay us more or whatever. But when you have people that actually know what they're doing, I've had clients come to me that say, hey, I need you to redo everything because this guy put a camera here, but every single morning the sun comes up and then it's glaring right in the camera and I can't see anything. So when you actually think about it early and pay attention to what you're doing with the design and all the different types of lenses, like maybe a fisheye lens is going to give you better visibility and you only need one instead of multiple. Like when you actually think about it and it's not just like a necessary evil, it's something that excites you, then there's so much you can do beforehand to really utilize it and make that money worth your while.
So do you guys work with architects? I know you said builders, doing kind of what we call like security by design. So as they're building this building or refurnishing this building, working with them to, hey, run Cat 5 cable or fiber optic cable now because it's a lot faster, can stream faster, download faster, and where to put the cameras, where to put the detectors, access control. Is that something that you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. Whether it's with, ANEs or GCs, which usually it's not as much with the GC, we do try to encourage that, because what happens when it's an afterthought and then you've already put up this beautiful building, you've had your interior designers come in, you've decorated everything, and now I need to rip a huge hole in the wall to put your camera in. Like, yeah. It shouldn't be an afterthought.
We always say it's cheaper. It's cheaper to do it in the beginning and plan for the 5-10 years if you can. I mean, technology is changing so rapidly now, but plan for that 5-year expansion. So instead of running Cat 5 cable now, I tell our clients, look, if you have the opportunity, run fiber optic through. through it as you're building something. So, yeah, I'm glad we're on the same wavelength. Hey, it's a lot cheaper and it's a lot better to do it beforehand than after.
Yeah, and even apart from the construction sense and back to the security sense, it's a lot cheaper to put in protection early rather than after you have an incident and you're like, oh, I don't need that. Well, it's better be safe than sorry.
Unfortunately, I mean, there's a lot of companies that are very proactive, but unfortunately, there's a lot of companies that are reactive, and it seems that, and there's a lot of that. They'll get a security camera, and it's been 15 years since they've done it, and they don't understand why it's not working or it's obsolete anymore.
Yeah. Or like, can you just replace this? I'm like,
Yeah.
no. Can you replace my Motorola Razr? No, you can't. No.
That's awesome. So what's the security industry look like in Arizona? Is it booming? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, the whole building industry is insane out here. We have Facebook putting in a big data center. Microsoft has multiple data centers out here. I know we have a huge DoD market. There's just a lot. Warehouses. I mean, we're just blowing up like crazy. And I know that's not really on the security side of things, but as we've been saying, everybody needs security. So the more things boom and the more things grow, the more markets there are.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, with Microsoft, Facebook, all those industries, even the building industry needs security. So,
yeah.
Do you guys do residential or is it mainly commercial?
Entities? No, at my last integrator, I've done security and access control, or cameras and access control for they were a big developer out here in multifamily. So for the community centers, the pools, that makes sense. And we would do that here at LVC as well, but it's just a lot of times it's small scale. And then as far as for like an actual house, everyone just gets Ring cameras, right? Like the only people who are going to put in what we sell are going to be really high end, multi-million-dollar houses. And that's a different client.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Someone trying to protect their business or their employees. That's somebody that doesn't want it there because it doesn't look pretty and in the nicest way possible. I don't want to deal with it. So
awesome.
I would just say too, when we were going back to talking about being proactive on things, something else we do is DAS, which is the distributed antennae systems. You probably have had to deal with that being a part of a SWAT team. But when you come into a building and your radios aren't working, we use a partner on that for Parts and Smarts. And he was telling me that one of their schools up in Oregon, a couple officers were there. There was an active shooter on campus. They tried to go into the building and they went in and their radios weren't working. So they had to go out and wait for, I don't remember exactly what it was, whatever they were waiting for, whether it was the school's PA system or something to be announced so that they could go back in or more backup to come or whatever. And in that time, more lives were lost. And it's just one of those things that's like, nobody wants to put in the stuff that's code driven or it's necessary to do in the beginning because it costs money and it sucks. But when you have students' lives being lost, it's like, man, if they had only cared in the beginning.
Yeah. It's weird.
That's tough. We do some pro bono work for schools and churches. And I'll give them this great report. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, our budget can't support this.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing, to hear out of, 2 children in school right now. And it's like, you can't afford a fence, huh? Well, what's a kid's life cost, at that point? And look, I get it, right? I mean, I deal with this with CEOs and the C-suites all the time. Security is expensive at the end of the day. And to get it done right is even more expensive. If you want the Walmart solution, well, you can get the Walmart solution. You'll see how long it lasts. But if you want that customized, tailored solution, it's going to cost you a little more, but it's going to actually last you a lot longer. You get, in my opinion, a better bang for your buck. But it's tough. It's tough with schools and churches because of the limited funding. I know there's some grants out there for schools. So any of our listeners and viewers out there, if you're in the education, look, the DOJ has quite a few grants out there. I think they released some back in July for schools. So just kind of scour Google. I always call it Dr. Google, but you can usually find some kind of grant out there, hopefully. And then your states do as well.
Yeah.
And I'd love to talk to you more about that offline as well, because I would blast that information to anyone and everyone. On the fire alarm side, we do a ton of schools. If that's, I don't have kids, but I have nieces and nephews and, a lot of kids in my life that matter to me. I was a nanny in college and anything that you could do whether you use me as an integrator or not, I care, but I don't care. If you can get the money and get security in there to help kids, hell yeah.
And that's how we felt. Freedom Consulting is the same way. It's like, look, something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And as long as we can help or point you in the right direction, it's a success. So I guess that's one good thing about being retired from the military is, we don't have to push that hard. We love what we do. I'm very confident in what we do, but it's I don't try to push too hard.
We just lay the options out there. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want
here's
it,
the
great. If not,
options.
there you go. So,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just on the business side of things, like apart from security, like I said, my dad's an entrepreneur. I grew up with that mentality, and I meet people all the time, whether they're networking partners, whether they're clients. And if I feel like I'm pushing you so hard into something that you don't want or you're not interested, like, cool, I'm good. There's so many people out there that like me and want to work with me, or need what we have or are excited about it, that I will give you every opportunity in the world, all the information in the world. If it gels and it works, it'll work. Otherwise, there's no need really to push, in my opinion.
What's great about this podcast too, and it's something that I don't think we really thought about when we started doing it. We started kind of the height of COVID last year in May, I want to say.
March.
Okay, March. But the connections, right? The connections and understanding people. Okay, hey, this is what you do, and just when people call and it's something that's outside our wheelhouse, I'm like, hey, give Mariah Davies a call. This is kind of what they do, or call Joe LaSorsa, or call this person, call that person. We had Shrek. I get a lot of people asking about shooting schools, and they want to learn. We had the Sheriff of Baghdad on. In my opinion, a phenomenal dude. Yeah. Instructions are great. He has a lot of free stuff. He has an app. Download his app. Talk to John. John will do a video instruction with you, and then he'll also fly out and put on like a 3-4 day class. He's always traveling around the country doing that. So the connections we've made through this podcast has been great, and I think it really just helps our business and hopefully helps other people's businesses too. Listen to us like, oh, let me call Mariah. Let me call this person or that person. So definitely, appreciate you sharing not just your experience but your knowledge as well. I think that's huge.
Thanks.
Yeah, so we'll give you. I want you to talk a little bit more or reiterate what LVC does, and here's the email or the website where they can find you at.
Yeah, so again, on the national side and where we're growing as a company, it's more on the security technology front. So access control, cameras, intrusion alarm, and then here in Arizona specifically, we also do DAS, nurse call, and fire alarm. So we can do any of your monitoring, any service, or any new buildings as well.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
So it looks like we lost Jake. I don't know. Maybe he's pulled a plug on himself accidentally. I don't know. But anything else you want to talk about that I didn't ask you or anything like that? I always like to ask if there's something you want to discuss before we get going.
No, I would just say the biggest theme of today, talking about women and security, is obviously it's a lot bigger here in Arizona. But if you are interested in being in the business, or you're feeling, I just hate that there's such a negative view on it. It's a positive thing. You're different. It's an advantage. So that's just like the taste I think that I want to leave in people's mouths is get involved and go learn something and use your difference to an advantage.
I think it's getting better now, but I think going into, I imagine me personally, I would be more apprehensive in going into a career that was female dominated as a male. And I'm sure it's vice versa. There's some women out there who seem like they might be intimidated. And like you said, it's not, I think you've been well received in this industry. And I think that majority of people do receive women well, because we see how valuable you are to the team and to the industry as a whole.
Yeah, I was talking with another member of ASIS out here, and he was saying kind of the same thing that you guys were when he was in the military. There were some women, and it wasn't like, oh, she's trying to be as strong or carrying, an injured soldier out or whatever. But they were talking, I think he was saying, I don't know, she was in a bar or a coffee shop or something, and basically was able to like slyly kill someone because they weren't expecting it. And I don't know the whole story, so I really suck at retelling it right now. But it was cool. It was like, wow, that's interesting, because so often we think like, oh, we don't want women in because they're not going to be able to carry our wounded brother out. And he's like, that's not what we need you for. There's somebody else that can carry him out. We need you for X, Y, and Z. And I was like, even as a woman, I've never thought of it that way. So it is kind of cool to hear those stories in that perspective.
Yeah, I think everyone has their role, right? Like I'm a short, fat, angry midget. I have my role in the team, right? To bring the pain and bring the hate. But I think everyone has their role, and I think men and women each have their role, and then personalities too drive that quite a bit. And I think it's personality driven. I think more than a female male thing to a degree.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've noticed that out here with women in the industry. It's a lot of alpha, aggressive type females. And I think for the most part, it's people, women helping women. But for me, I'm usually so aggro and so like leadership mentality, and not because I'm trying to be, just naturally that's how I am. But I've really started to just kind of step back and be like, do what you want to do. Let me know if you need help. Like I have a million other things to do and a million other places to play. I'm not gonna fight you to be on top. Like you do you, and then let me know where you want me. I've softened, I think, a lot, ironically.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you coming on. Jake, you had anything? I'm glad you came back to us for the last few minutes.
Yeah, man. I thought maybe you guys were like blocking me or something. No, it dropped me for some weird reason. So no, Mariah, great talking to you. Great catching up with you. We'll exchange information once we get off live here. But thank you. Thanks for your input. I think it's a definitely valuable input, and love your energy and your knowledge that you brought today. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you watching and listening. Don't forget to check us out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com, the Coffee Squad Podcast. And, of course, you can always find us at coffeesquadpodcast.com for all of our content. We will see you guys next week. Thank you.
Have a good one.